Larissa.
Why don't you make a decorate?
Why don't you decorate? So this is the verb, decoration. It's a noun. Why don't you decorate what? House?
Decorate house
For the party. Yes, it's fun. So Maria, people will have ideas, and if I keep asking, people will give ideas.
Well, in Conte we have it.
Fun, interesting and fun. Why do you? It's a normal question.
Why don't you enjoy your favorite movie?
Why don't you enjoy? So she said, why don't you watch the movie? Why don't you enjoy your favorite movie? Okay, so Valera, you're the only one. Why don't you go to the night show? Okay, I need regular physical exercise. I really need. But I don't like to go to gym. What are your suggestions? Let's begin, Maria. You said no more ideas. First. You first. I need physical exercise.
Why don't you why don't you play maybe basketball?
Why don't you play basketball? Okay, Francisco.
Why don't you practice karate?
Why don't you practice karate? Oh, it's really? You need to say that right here. Yeah, I like it. This is physical exercise. Zudi. Why don't you ride a bicycle? Okay, Natasha. Why don't you play football? Okay, why don't you play football?
Why don't you take a walk for an hour?
Why don't you take a walk for an hour? Yes, I don't like to go. Remember I said I don't like to go to gym. So you thinking about, because I heard why don't you go to gym and you stuck. So I want you a little bit. Okay.
Why don't you fix food?
Why? What? Why?
Physical exercise. Why don't?
I need physical exercise. That's what. Why don't you fix what? I understand. Okay, this is not physical exercise. I'm not gonna do push-ups.
If you watch
Okay, so Oля. Why don't you play tennis?
Why don't you go to Altai Beach and ride on bicycle?
Okay, why don't you go to Alki Beach and ride bicycle?
Why don't you go Pilates?
Why don't you go?
Some aerobics.
Okay. Aerobic. Why don't you do some aerobic? Okay, let's make it simple. Don't do it complicated. Okay, Larissa.
Why don't you swim in the pool?
Why don't you swim? Not swimming. Why don't you swim in a pool?
Why you don't practice?
No, that's not suggestion.
Why don't you practice
Sumo. Okay, why don't you practice sumo? People, so do I look like a sumo fighter? Okay, so Zumba! Oh my goodness! I heard the Zumba and Zumba, it's a Samoa guy. 300 or 400 pounds. Yeah, let's do it. You will break me in two pieces. Just come on, I am dead. Zumba. Okay.
Why don't you go club shopping?
Why don't you go jogging? Okay, Nadia.
Why don't you clean a house?
Okay.
Why not?
It is exercise. Yes, it is.
Why don't you run a couple hours?
Couple hours, 5 minutes, Julie. Couple hours.
Only 5 minutes?
Yeah, we do 10 minutes. Okay, Valera.
Why don't you go to the stadium?
Why don't you go to the stadium? Okay, Tran.
Why don't you walk around in the park?
Why don't you walk around the park to me?
Why don't you go to classes, hot yoga?
Yes, you know, this is really interesting. My friend did that classes, and looking at her, I don't really. She's barely moving after yoga. Okay, but I heard it's really fun. Okay, you were first. So, Michael, are you ready to give me physical suggestion for physical exercise? Except fixed dinner.
Why don't you run with me?
Why don't you run with me? Don't say couple of hours because then you will ride with me in your hands. Okay, that will be exercise for you, not for me. Okay, so Laura.
Will run for a couple hours.
Why
You
don't
can
you
do?
I can.
Why don't you walk? Okay, Antonio.